Hello students, this is Ms. Catherine. I want to talk to you about focus area diagnostics and what those are really there for and how you can use them. So I'm going to go into the platform demonstrating for you as another student. So I'm going to demonstrate as Jalen, who is working right on pace throughout his year, and I'm going to just open up a focus area because what I'm about to show you is true for any focus area regardless of what course you're in. It can be for any of your courses, it can be for any focus area. So I'm going to open up this biodiversity focus area, and I'm going to point out that the first thing that we see in the list of the focus area playlist is the diagnostic, and you could just start the diagnostic, but I'm going to ask that you don't just jump in and start the diagnostic. First of all, a diagnostic is a tool, and like any tool, if you don't use it in a deliberate, focused way, it doesn't really serve you the way it's intended to serve you. So when you first open a focus area, I'm going to ask that your first attention goes to this box over on the right so that you can understand the purpose of the focus area. This box says focus area info. There's a description, and this is what's really, really important. This is how you're going to know when you're ready to take a content assessment. By the time you finish this playlist, you should be able to, 1, describe the concept of biodiversity. Note that the first thing you should be able to do aligns with the first objective. An objective is a kind of goal. So the first objective says, describe what biodiversity is and how biodiversity is measured. By the time you finish this playlist, you should be able to describe the concept of biodiversity, right? The second thing you should be able to do is explain how biodiversity is impacted by changes in the environment caused by humans. Notice that aligns with objective 2. Describe how changes to the environment can lead to the increase of or decrease of biodiversity, and so on. So this box is very important because it shows you that each objective is a goal, and that you should be able to do what it says in the objective in order to be ready to take the content assessment. Okay. Further, in this box, there are some key terms that you should be able to define and give an example of by the time you're done studying the focus area or the playlist. A playlist, that word just refers to a list of resources that you can play or access or engage with in order to learn, okay? So there are key terms that are listed. You should be able to independently define and give an example of each of these things in order to know that you are ready to take the content assessment, to know that you know the content. All right, so far we have not taken the diagnostic, and that's absolutely fine. But we know what the goal is for this particular focus area. I said there are 2 ways you can use the diagnostic. Once you understand the goal of the focus area and what you should be able to do when you're finished studying all of the content, if you want to begin with the diagnostic, you can go ahead and start it. And the diagnostic then is a way to test what you already know. However, if you go through this multiple choice test and you guess at any of the answers and you happen to get those answers right, the ones you guessed at, they're going to show up as having been answered correctly. However, you need to ask yourself, did I really know that information, or did I just guess? If you guessed, then that is not an indication you are ready to take the content assessment. If you actually really knew the information and you were able to answer the question before looking at the choices, and then when you looked at the choices, you saw the answer that you would have that you came up with on your own, then you really know the content, and that's good to know, okay? So that's one way to use the diagnostic. that is as getting a sense of what you already know. But even notice that that diagnostic only had 3 questions. There was 1 question per objective. But when you open up a playlist for one objective, look at all the resources there and think for a moment. Do you think that all of the information provided in the slideshow and the text and the 2 videos, do you think that all of that information could be summed up in a single question that you answered on the diagnostic? Probably not. That should show you, hey, there's a lot more that I can be learning here. So even if you mastered a diagnostic, you still should study the resources in each objective. If you open a resource and, oops, where did it go? Oh, it's down here. I have to open that up. If you open a resource and see that you fully understand every piece of information within that resource, then great. You don't have to carefully study it and, what's going on here? Why isn't it opening? Okay, there we go. If you go through a resource and you're sorry, I just lost my train of thought, and you're confident that you really know all of this information, there's nothing new here, then fabulous. You don't have to do a really close study and take notes, but definitely look at bits that have key information and make sure that you have at least the key information written down in your notes so that you can refer to those later when you want to review all of the content before taking a content assessment. All right, so I'm going to close that one. And then you go to the next resource and really look at it and really consider the information that's in there and write down anything that is new to you. And then when you're finished writing notes for that one resource, you should do like we practiced in school and write a couple of sentences to summarize everything you learned. Look at this resource. This one resource has 2 videos, a whole bunch of text. I'm guessing there is a lot to learn in this one resource. Okay, so we've gone over one way to use the diagnostic, just to give yourself a sense before you start studying of how much you do or don't know. Okay, now I'm going to explain the other way to use the diagnostic is not to open it up until you have already studied everything in each of the objectives. You've written notes. Look at all these resources. My goodness, there's a lot to study here, right? You can go through all of that information, test yourself on whether you can define and provide examples of all of the key terms. Test yourself on whether you're able to do the things that it says in the description you should be able to do. And then just take the diagnostic as a little check for understanding and to see how the questions are going to be formulated for the content assessment. So it would be sort of a warm-up test, which would be fine. And if you do well on it then, and you really are answering questions from knowledge rather than from guesswork, then you know you're really ready to request the content assessment. That is how you go through a focus area. That is how you drive your learning. And that is how you use the diagnostic as an actual tool that does support your growing understanding of a focus area. I highly discourage anyone from just taking a diagnostic, mastering it, and assuming you're ready to skip all of the content in the playlist and go right to the test. It's rarely the case that somebody who has not looked at any of the resources is going to master the content assessment. Keep that in mind. All right, thanks everyone. Bye.